The greatest gift I have in my work is that I can see what's possible in others, in my coaching clients, in organizations I work with, and I can create processes, ways that allow them to bring that forth if they are ready. Now, the key phrase there is that last bit, if they are ready. Not everyone is ready to step into that full potential, even if you can see it incredibly clearly. I've found in my work life, I can respect that very easily. People go at the pace that they choose, and I trust that. Where this is more of a challenge, and perhaps you can relate to this, is when there's someone that you care about in your personal life where you can see so much more in them and they are denying it. This is Ravi Tangri, and this is SOULgineering your life and work, finding those tiny little pressure points where you can bring more heart, more soul, more joy into all of your life, your work, your leisure, your home, your community, everything that you do. And today we're going to dive into something that I've had a learning journey on, and I've encountered so many people in my coaching work that run into this as well, where you see potential in someone, you see what they could be, where they're holding themselves back or sabotaging them. And it can be incredibly frustrating, especially if you care about them, when they're not realizing that. One of the things that I do in my work, in my individual work with people, is help them connect with what I call the core, which is your inner sense of purpose or why behind everything that you do, your sense of self or identity at the core, and your unique gift, that which you bring into the world to share with others to help yourself grow. And my unique gift is that I can see what's possible, whether it's an individual, an organization, a community, and I can create a path, ways, processes that will allow them to bring it forth if they are ready. I can't bring it forth, but I can create ways that can help them get there. And the critical piece in that is if they are ready, people will grow at the pace that's right for them. And there are times people are not ready to go somewhere. And I can respect that in my work environment. I can be very objective and respect their choice to go only as far as they are capable of going now. And I will often find that if you stepwise it, people will go be way beyond what they thought was possible, or sometimes it may take time and they start the process and a couple of years later they reconnect and they go the next step and they go at their pace. And I can work with that, whether it's an organization or an individual, in terms of breaking out of limits. The challenge I've found, and the challenge I find my coaching clients have, is when it's personal, when it's with friends or family that you deeply care about, who may be sabotaging themselves, who may be in unhealthy situations, unhealthy responses, dealing with effects of past trauma, and they keep sabotaging or hurting themselves, and yet you see that they have so much more to offer. And how can you respect that when they are doing damage to themselves? And that can be a significant challenge. I remember years ago, I encountered this in the 90s when I had a team of people working for me. On the individual front, I do both purpose coaching one-on-one, but I also have retreats where I help people connect with that core and then resculpt their lives around that. And it was important to me to have everyone on my team experience what the clients went through, so that they could speak intelligently about it and understand what was involved. And so I would take, as I as team members came on, I would take them through the processes in on retreats or whatever so that they could have that experience. And I remember this one woman who worked for me. She really, really believed in me, really believed in the work that I do. But there came a critical step, and it was actually a physical step you took in this exercise to step into that, where that core was. And she wanted to do that for me so much, but she could not. It was not right for her at the time. She was in tears, and I totally understood. And I said, no, it's okay. You do not have to do this. But it was a big lesson to me that, you can't force anyone to go at their own pace, at your pace. It's got to be at their pace. And as much as she wanted to do it for me, she could not do it for herself. And when we change, we have to do it for ourselves at the right time. And I totally respected where she was at. And, of course she didn't have to do it, but she got the experience of the rest of the program, and she saw what other people got from it. So she still got huge value from that. But that was, I remember that moment, even though it was so long ago, very clearly, because it was like, okay, I have to bring resources to people, but they have to choose to take advantage of them or not. And it's happened to me over the years with friends, with family, where I can see that potential in them, but they're just running away from it or sabotaging themselves, not wanting to own it. It's like that Marianne Williamson quote that it's not the powerlessness that we fear, it's that we're powerful beyond measure. And and that's so common out there. I've had this probably most significantly with a partner that I had who's a beautiful soul. And I could see that immediately. I could see all that light in her, but she had had huge trauma in her life. She did a lot of work. I had so much respect watching her when we were together, the work that she did in doing that healing. But it finally came to a place where she had to leave that old self, the traumatized self behind, and she could not do it, and wound up going back into a trauma response and all sorts of self-sabotage. And because I loved her dearly, that was so hard to see. And I wanted to do anything I could to support her, but it was irrelevant because it was her choice. And in the end, I had to respect her choice to sort of dive back into the cesspool of suck. And, I trust that when the time is right, she will find her way out. But there's nothing else I can do. I can't force anything on her or on anything else. And, when I think about it and I reflect on my own life, there's many times I've avoided facing messy stuff, dealing with yucky stuff, doing shadow work for years. But when the time was right, it was it was like, okay, do not pass go, do not collect $200, go directly to that. It was like, no, it is time. I knew, and it became easy. So, it's in my own reflections of myself, it's understanding that I have to respect that in others. So, what about for you? Now, let's come to you. When you see someone who is self-sabotaging, who's denying their potential, who's denying their power, doing all sorts of often self-destructive stuff, not realizing their potential, how do you respond? Because I've encountered this with many of my coaching clients. It's interesting in those cases as well. More often than not, they're able to have that objectivity in the work environment, that someone may not be ready to rise to their full potential now. So they have to work with them to where they are able to go. But it's in their personal lives and in those relationships where they have difficulty with this and where they get frustrated. So here's some things that I found useful for myself and working with my clients, some questions to explore. The first is, why is it so important to you? You know, your life is yours. You have absolute control over you and your life and your attitudes and your opinions and your beliefs and your values. You have the ability to change that. You do not have the power, ability, or right to do that for anyone else. So why is it so important for you? Now, let me give a caveat there. If you're dealing with a child who's self-destructive, you absolutely have to. If they're your child, you have to do things to protect them. There are decisions that you have to make for them. If it is a loved one, you can give the support you need, but in the end, if they are choosing to spiral, that's not your choice. There may be a situation where they're dealing with mental health challenges if they've gone off meds and so on. So that's another thing where you can help support them in getting back into balance if they've gone off. But outside of that, if they are choosing to stay in that, the question is, why is it so important to you that they change? What is it that makes you want to make them change now, as opposed to supporting them through the process? Now, in that, if you're supporting them through their journey to go through this at their own time, you've got some decisions to make. You need to protect yourself. You can't let them take advantage of you, abuse you. You don't want to develop codependent relationships and so on. There's a difference between support and dependence. You don't want to create unhealthy structures there. And you need to look, the other question is, what support do you need to support them? And what space do you need to create for yourself? These are questions to think about. And there will come a time, I've discovered, where you may decide you cannot be in that space. They're not willing to receive anything. You're not doing anything but beating themselves up. And you have to sometimes respect their path and walk your own way. And that's tough to do. But if an adult is bound and determined to go that way, that is their choice. And we have to respect it, no matter, who they are to us. If we are in a place where we are getting damaged, we have to look after self-care. It's not about martyring yourself. If there's no progress, if there's no improvement happening, and all that's happening is if you're getting damaged and you're martyring, then, is that the way you want to live your life? Or do you want to step into who you are and be resourceful should they need to reach out in the future? The other question is, why are you so focused on, if they are bound not to improve, not to change, why are you so focused on a no-win scenario where nothing is going to change? Why are you choosing to focus on that in your life as opposed to where you can have an impact? And I know this may sound cold, but you have to make a choice of, they are choosing as an adult to live that way. Do you choose to live in the struggle and suffering, or do you choose to live to realize your fullest potential so you can be most resourceful for people who you can interact with, grow with, and support, and who are open to it? in the end, it's not an easy choice, but these are some of the questions that you need to ask. I would love to hear your thoughts on this and your experiences in working with people in your life who are self-destructive, who are focused on negative, who are really self-sabotaging in these ways. I'd love to hear in the comments how you deal with these and have dealt with them and what your thoughts are on some of the things that I've discussed here. I'm Ravi Tangri, and I will see you next week on Soulgineering Your Life and Work.
I've got the energy, it's all I need to fit